Welcome to the Smithereens podcast. This is your co-host Jared.
And this is your co-host Tom.
And today we're talking about emerging technologies. Tom, who do we have on today?
On today's episode, we're joined once again by Colin Whitman. And for the first time ever, Devin Jeffrey, our UI UX manager, joins us to talk about Tesla's AR, VR, that weird face app that took all of our photos from Russia.
A lot of nerdy shit today, so please enjoy, sit back, put your headphones on, and hear about technology.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy.
Well, a good thing about that, Devin, is, you know, if you guys split, you might have enough money to finally get a Tesla, right?
Maybe. We actually saw one today. There's one parked out outside the building.
That's true. Took a good hard look inside it, and then I realized if this person is at like a restaurant nearby, I'm just peering in their car.
Yeah. You look like kind of a crazy person.
Yeah, that's why I kind of backed up, because I probably would have been the one getting arrested. But it's a sweet car.
Yeah.
And
sick.
That cockpit is like crazy. It's like the biggest. It's like the screen is the size of my laptop.
It's bigger.
Yeah, or
it's
bigger.
like 17 inches. There's no buttons in the car.
You've been wanting to get a Tesla for a long time.
At all?
No.
No buttons.
Yeah, no buttons.
No.
Nothing.
It's all on that. Like the whole steering wheel, everything is just smooth. Like the sunroof, everything is all controlled.
That's insane.
On there. Yeah.
So have you ever like sat in one?
Yeah.
Okay.
In California. This was
really?
this was like a couple of years ago.
So you've seen like the screen in action?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't like play around with it too much because there's a huge line of like people that just sit in it. It was in like a shopping center, but yeah, it's like bizarre when you sit in it because usually cars, like newer ones too, just have thousands of buttons everywhere, like even on the windshield wiper thing. But yeah, this was just completely smooth and like tons of space, and it felt like a cockpit. It was weird.
So when you saw that, when you sat in one, I mean, I know the entire time that I've been here, I've known you to have like a fascination with these, maybe almost obsession with these cars.
That's
were you already working in like UI and UX when you sat in one when you did, like to kind of actually experience it?
Yeah, I was just starting to get like pretty heavy into it. So I probably didn't appreciate like the screen portion of it.
Okay.
Like as much as I would now.
Sure.
But I appreciated it turning like what I thought a car was just upside down.
Sure.
And like it was something that it was so different from anything I've like sat in.
Right.
And like what I thought a new car should look like. And I was like, wow, this seems better. I didn't really know anything about it at the time. And that was like my first like time looking into a Tesla like that closely. And I was like, this just feels like the future.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What it should be.
Yeah,
I guess.
Right. Yeah, like the next step. Like it seems like with every year there's like new features in cars, but this seemed like the first leap. Like going from like a normal flip phone to like the iPhone in like 2007.
Well, so I think there's an interesting split even in that analogy where like you're saying, oh, rethink what a car can be. Mm-hmm. And that I totally understand what you're saying, but that's an internal thing. Mm-hmm. When you're standing outside a Tesla, like sure, it's sleek.
Yeah.
All that, but that's still identifiably a car.
Right.
But then you get inside and it's, oh, this is different.
Right.
So like it's still, you know, and that's evolution, right? It's like it's still a form that we see, that we're familiar with, but it's coming into a new spot. So.
Yeah, and it's designers taking things that we don't realize are, well, not really problems, but things that could be so much better. And like improving on it. So it's things that we just take like for granted, and we're just like, oh, it has to be this way. Like I have to put my key in the door to unlock it. Yeah. They have like to open the door, you use like it's like a wallet-sized card, and it senses when you get near it, and then the door handles pull open. Yeah, so then you can open it, and it can tell if you're gonna walk by it. Like if you're just gonna walk past it, it doesn't pull out. But if you're walking at an angle towards the front door, it'll unlock it. Wow. So it can even sense like that far.
What about unlocking like other doors? Like if you have to like unlock the passenger door and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it can sense that too. Or maybe it just does all of them at once. But yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
It's crazy. It's bizarre, and it's weird because it's like go back 20 years and tell people that they're gonna unlock their car and start their car with a like a wallet-sized card.
Yeah.
And that's like their key to their car.
Yeah. Has anyone adapted, their idea? I'm sure not to the same extent. But has anyone adapted, like, since they've kind of come onto the market with those? Have other car manufacturers like adapted to that change or like promoted that change? Do you have any idea?
There's none that I know of that are that far advanced in like the tech like space.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's other electric cars that are probably on par as far as like battery and motor and stuff because Tesla opened their patents because they want competition.
Yeah.
I would challenge, like, so, and again, I don't at all disagree that this is next generation stuff with a Tesla, but like my car, I drive a Jeep and it's a fob. It's very not at all identifiably a key. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a wallet size like card either, but it's already, sort of disambiguated from the idea of a key. I don't think disambiguated was correct there for the record, but like so it's still something you put in your wallet or whatnot, and like so there's just even like things. So it's not necessarily radical, but it's like enough of a shift that feels different.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's when I think of like that subtle little difference. When I leave the house, I check wallet, phone, keys. People with this, just wallet, phone. Like they don't have to remember.
Sure.
I guess they're house keys and stuff.
If you got one of these bad boys,
that's
just
it.
Phone.
That does it too. Yeah.
Phone.
I'm looking up like if I can see what one looks like.
A Tesla or like a card to get into a Tesla or something. Yeah.
Just the way you order it too. You can just go on the website and in 2.5 minutes order a car and it gets delivered to your house. And you have 7 days to try it. If you don't like it, you can send it back. No problem.
That's insane.
Like it just they flipped like instead of going to a dealership.
Sure.
All that annoying stuff that like I wouldn't want to go and haggle and like, I feel like they're gonna know that I'm a sucker and I don't know that much about cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All those preconceptions.
One of those things that like even at 28 years old, I still want to go with my dad, so I don't feel like I'm being swindled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like for me, it's just the anxiety of like knowing what I want. Like I'm very like when I'm making big purchases like TVs or anything like that, like I'm very like I just want to get in and get out, and it's like, oh, this is like the best one. I'm like, great, give it to me because I don't want to make any more decisions. Like, and so it's like not having to kind of go through that face to face, and I can like buy something online like that. I think it would make me buy that product that much more.
Right.
So I mean, so we've kind of covered very quickly all the different ways that like Tesla has changed a lot in or is a driving force for change in the automotive industry. But Jared, earlier today you were like talking about how to play the other side of this coin. You were talking about how you saw someone driving a Tesla, and when you drove by them, what were they doing?
Yeah, I was coming home from work the other day, and I was like making a left turn, and so obviously the opposite traffic was at the light, and some lady had a really nice new Tesla, and she had a book over the steering wheel, like reading a book while at the light, and it kind of like I was like, what the hell? And so it kind of made me nervous, and I've ridden in a Tesla before, and not like the self-driving, that aspect wasn't on there, but they're great cars. So I guess I never ridden in one, so I don't want to say, hey, you're doing that wrong, or like you shouldn't be doing that, because I don't know what the full functionality is. But it is kind of scary when you think about it. Like I feel like, and I'm sure they have like the pressure weighted steering wheel, stuff like that. So you need to be somewhat engaged, for the car to have that functionality.
You have to pay attention to some degree.
Yeah, just like I feel like so many variables happen not from you but from other drivers that like you just want that person to not lose any focus. Mm-hmm. And that's what scares me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with anything, so today's topic is technology and how design corresponds to that. So, I don't know if design was necessarily the thing for you, Devin, that drew you to Teslas. Would you say that is, or the technology behind it, or a combination of the two?
I think it was a combination of the two. Because like I said, I didn't even look that far into them when I knew about them. I just knew it was like a big change.
Sure.
And then I got interested in all the like, oh wow, it can do this. Like fully electric, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All these extra little things that like caught my attention.
And you said that when you sat in one, that was kind of at the start, like early start of your career in this. Was there stuff, and I guess are there still things that you pull from design concept wise when you were sitting in that car that you try to, match or mirror onto the way that we think about websites going forward? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more big picture things that have like come from that. Like why do we have to go to a website and see like the Amazon for like shopping? Like why do we need to do that and like filter through products and find the perfect one and look through reviews? Like why does it have to be that way? Why?
Sure.
Like we've talked about this before with like the Apple Business Chat that I found out they're working on. It's in beta right now, but essentially you'll be able to text a company and like Wayfair or something for furniture and say, I need a couch. And then they'll send you like 3 styles and then give you like a few options, and like it can all happen through text. Like, right. So it's like taking something that we just accept is just how we have to do it because we've always done it that way. Right. And just like flipping it upside down and making it a lot more convenient in a lot of ways.
So in your adult life, so call it 20 upwards, something like that. Mm-hmm. What do you think has been the most transformative product that like truly changed how we do things, but like it became commonplace? And I guess I'll start with it. I would say like a smartphone in general, right? Because all of a sudden that's like ubiquitous to me, and I just have the whole world at my fingertips, and like that didn't exist until 10 years ago,
right?
Like and that like that's totally changed things, and that's one example there. But
for sure, and not only that, but the App Store is fairly new. Like the iPhone existed in 2007, but the App Store didn't exist for years after that. And that's when this started to become like our main, like everyone has a smartphone and like there's an app for everything.
Yeah, and there's a whole app economy.
Right.
Like,
yes. I mean, I guess to piggyback off that, Colin, to speak to my, I would say I've noticed a trend of like technologies that I would consider gimmicky like 30 years ago when they were first starting out. And I think you could put a lot of these things in that category. But things like virtual reality or 3D, like I remember, seeing like a 3D movie when I was a kid and being like, even as a child being like, well, this looks dumb. Or virtual reality, putting on like a helmet or something like that to like play a video game at an arcade or, whatever. The early adaptations of that were very primitive and looked phony, and they kind of had like a kitschiness associated with them. But that technology has come so far and been made so much cheaper that you can get, I should say cheaper in quotes, but like something like an HTC Vive in terms of a VR thing for a computer. If you have a good enough computer that can run that, buy the system for, let's say, around like $500. And I've used it before. And the game that I played for it was walking around like the bottom of like a shipwrecked boat on the bottom of the ocean. Like you're walking around it. And it felt so real. And it kind of threw me for a loop. And it freaked me out a little bit because I remember playing this game and I walked to the edge of this ship and you could kind of look down and see like where there was clearly deeper water. And it gave me like an anxiety rush, like I was actually on like really seeing that in real life, and it kind of freaked me out. But with that, these things are kind of becoming like more of a mainstay. You can get a VR attachment for a phone, even. You know what I mean? I've seen like friends have that, and that even looks remotely like real. But it kind of freaks me out to talk about, I guess, the positives, negatives of this. That kids these days are growing up with that kind of being a norm. And so like I'm very curious as to what the psychological effects are of a kid playing a VR game for like hour. I mean, I remember playing, I'm sure we all do remember playing video games as a kid and playing, Crash Bandicoot for 8 hours in a night. But playing in that where you really feel like you're in it. And I'm just curious how that's going to like affect their psychology if they stick with those kind of things.
Right. Because it's a real reaction. It's like real emotions and like you said, anxiety looking over that. And if someone has like is in a spot where they are kind of like stuck in a routine and then they experience this, they might want to they're like, oh, this is better. Like I want to be in this more. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it almost like I could see it being getting to the point where it's so good that people just want to go home and do that instead. Right. And with video games before, it was just a disconnect. So like you're holding a controller, looking at a screen, you get distracted, you look around.
Sure.
But if you're in this, you have the headsets on, you have the camera on, you don't really know what's going on around you.
It's taking up all of your senses.
Yeah.
Which is something that you never really had before.
True.
It's so immersive as an idea.
I think that like, when I think about everything, it's a lot of companies, their main goal and their stakeholders' goal is to get more users, right? And so every company has X strategy to kind of make you play this more, do this more, look at this more, be with us for a little bit longer, And I'm kind of interested to hear your point, because there's companies that have been out, or former employees for major companies and brands that have come out after the fact and just say like, hey, we're doing this just to make you more addicted to kind of doing this. And they're kind of like walking it back. Like, you shouldn't do this because this is bad long-term for your psychology and your health or whatever your social life is. So, I mean, if a brand wanted to kind of like implement like X tactic, do you feel they should have some sort of like social responsibility to kind of make sure, they're not over jeopardizing the health of an individual or user?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like, my perspective, and I think, and somewhat because of that, like Mr. Smith's perspective would be, effective advertising doesn't need to be evil. Right. that's kind of fucking evil to like use these patterns that like are truly reprogramming people's like dopamine centers and shit like that. Like, and far be it, we're not like to that level right now. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that, like research and gigantic budgets that go do that. But like, certainly, I think that's something of a dystopia right there. Like a reprogramming people to like take advantage of like neural pathways that you carved a new wrinkle through some science magic, and then go get them to buy your widget just seems not the way things should go. So.
For sure. And I think that, like, thinking about Facebook and Instagram, like, I don't think they set out with this as their intention. They weren't like, oh, we're going to go this far and affect people like on a psychological level. I think it kind of, the way they built it and the features they kept adding, the micro interactions to give you that dopamine hit, the likes and the little things like pokes, just to give you that tiny hit that makes you want more. I think it just keeps adding up, and at the same time, it's making them more money, and everyone that's invested in it, they have a responsibility to. So it's finding that balance between like, okay, do we continue these addictive things, or like Instagram has the new feature where it says you're all caught up. Like, do we implement more of that stuff to give people like, okay, let's
a breather.
Right.
Isn't there this dopamine hit of these micro interactions on social? Like, I'm fascinated by that, because I think that when we're talking about that, it's assumed that we're talking about the hit that you as the content poster get when someone gives you a thumbs up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's a secondary hit there of like me being able to interact with someone and keep a relationship going and pay them attention. And all I've got to do is click a thumbs up. Like, oh, I saw this. See, we're close still. And like, I get some satisfaction from that, because all of a sudden I'm doing my job as like maintaining a relationship.
It's a microtransaction of feeling like, I did something good today.
Right. Like, I supported I gave someone attention today. I lived outside my own brain and gave someone else some attention.
Sure.
And it literally took me half a fucking second to hit a thumbs up. Like,
that's true.
And there's been like research. I can't quote anything like specific. I have just heard that there's been studies saying that even commenting and like messaging through these things is not enough, like on a sociological level. It doesn't give us the satisfaction of like having an actual conversation.
Even if it like some sense feels like, oh, I did this, but like it's hollow.
Yeah, it doesn't give us like that sociological need that we like have. It doesn't fully make up for that.
It's made out of glass.
Yep.
You do that and it's so fragile when you do that. It's not like
a
real interaction.
Just disappears.
It's also a little bit easier in some regard to attain. I feel like a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot of, but some friends that I have that are maybe a little bit more like socially anxious, let's say, they live on social media and love to and they have their friends that are their social media friends or their internet friends or whatever those kind of things are. And it's nothing against those kind of concepts, but if stuff doesn't break that wall a little bit, you're not getting what I feel like humans crave of actual communication.
But to a certain, the devil's advocate in it, maybe they are, because anxiety, when you give yourself the separation of a screen, I think there's something to be said about how that separates you from your anxiety, because all of a sudden, yes, you're Devin behind that screen, but you're the version of Devin that's behind the screen, as opposed to oh wow, I'm hanging out with someone one-to-one. What if I trip? And they think I'm stupid. What if I say the wrong thing right then and there?
Right. You have a few seconds to think before you respond.
It allows you to be imperfect to yourself or take a risk, I guess, even. you know what I mean? Friends that make music or any of those kind of things, I guess I'm talking about, where they wouldn't maybe have the ability to sit or play in front of a crowd, but they can sit behind a computer and do a YouTube video or do a whatever because they feel more comfortable in that controlled setting.
Right.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like for me, I'll run into friends who I haven't seen in a long time. And to me, I feel like technology, in a sense, has diminished the conversations you have in real life, you'll run into someone at the store or you haven't seen in a while, and it's always hey, I saw you posted this, how was it? I was well, if I'm very, very active on social media, you've seen my whole trip, know what I did, so you're only asking me to ask me, you already know where I was, what I did, who I was with. So I feel like it's, in some instances, technology can hurt that discovery of having that conversation. So now I'm just conscious if I go away somewhere or partake in X activity, I want to be there in a moment. I was at a concert this week and, someone was next to me and they were pretty much sending videos on Instagram the whole time of the concert, not really paying attention to the concert. And then they would just go back and check how many people have watched that video. Yeah. I'm you spent money to go and, your friends didn't. But yet you're giving them something that you paid for at a severe discount. The discount of you missing the actual show, because you're not going to go back and watch your own videos. That's just dumb,
Yeah, that is the funny part about it. And I catch myself doing it a lot, I feel, when I go to a show, especially if it's something a very pivotal thing, a rare opportunity. I think when I saw Radiohead a few years ago, I took a bunch of videos. And after the fact, I was just why? Why did it really?
How many times have you watched them?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I've watched maybe one or two of them since recording them, and I'm why didn't I just sit there and really be present? And I'm always curious about that. Of I was talking to somebody here earlier today about this, but being present is becoming this growing. I used to say trend, but I feel technology and stuff has made us really not present in a moment and being part of something. And so there's this growing trend of that, of really trying to be in a moment and push away from your phone. And I think stuff like Apple coming out with their screen time is probably something that you would I think we could all agree is pushes you to want to use your phone less, hopefully. Because I remember when that first came on my phone and I saw that I was using my phone 5 hours a day. It's that's 20% of my life I'm on a phone. That's kind of ridiculous, right?
Right.
But I'm curious with that. So we've talked about technology and I guess from a negative more so recently. But I'm curious in what ways, positive or negative, and I'll throw this your way, Devin. With everything that we've talked about of companies trying to make users stay in their applications or pull off, as you said earlier, what casinos do in some regard to make people stick around on websites. What do you do to combat those kind of things? Are there intentional things that you do in web design to kind of make people feel maybe less tied in a negative fashion?
Well, I think websites are a little different because we have such a short amount of time that we need to capture attention, and it's not something generally that people will spend as much time as they spend on Twitter with endless scroll. But I think that's actually a good feature for a news site. I'm sure you've seen that where you finish the article, keep scrolling, and it goes right to the next article. Right. So I think that's something that could be done to get people to spend less time on it, but obviously then you're selling less ads.
True.
So it's a big responsibility of like I said before, like the fiduciary responsibility of making money, and also, okay, we need to also make sure we're thinking responsibly for our users. From our perspective though, it's generally, we're trying to capture attention for a certain amount of time just to tell the story that we're trying to tell, or sell the service or the product that we're trying to sell. So it's a little bit different than these applications where you end up spending 6 hours a day.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. So this past week, we all kind of took our turns with the Face app, right? Doing our old person photo pictures. And then I'm kind of paraphrasing, but then an article came out that the creators of the app were like, what, Russian
developers. Yeah.
Russia has my old face. Put in Russian propaganda.
But since that story's come out, people are all like up in arms and like, oh my God, like I can't believe we use this thing. Do you think if that story came out beforehand that anyone would have given a shit and still used the app? Or is it just because everyone's used it now?
I think the story came out and people are still using it with impunity. And anybody that used it on the front end without thinking that it was like somehow going to have something like that is just naive. Like,
yeah. Do you guys freak out about that kind of stuff? Like companies having your information or photos, or, I mean, like there's been so much, people become so reliant on these new technologies, things like iCloud, how many iCloud breaches there have been of photos and myriads of other things. Do you guys freak out about that kind of stuff?
Not really. I guess if it's something that I think, like I never feel like it's something that can affect me super negatively, which is probably also a little naive. Oh yeah, we got some ventilation in here.
Yeah, I can hear that. That's fine. Keep it going.
Like with the app, I think what people were freaking out about was the language was pretty aggressive in the terms and conditions. It was like, forever irrevocable license to your your face. But I think
royalty free. Because like that idea of royalties, I think, is like, that's sort of like this American dream thing. Like, I started a commercial and I get paid for forever.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think ultimately, I think that was basically saying like, we could use this for promotion, like on our site, like old photos that people upload.
Sure.
And there's also something like the AI that works in the app can only work on their server, not on your phone. So they need to bring your photo over to their server.
Interesting.
So I think there's like some weird things there where they kind of were required to have that language, and it was a little aggressive when I read it, but I think ultimately they're just like, we want to use your photos for promotion.
Sure.
We need them on our servers.
Yeah. I mean, I guess outside of Face app, though. Yeah. I mean, we all do our banking digitally. I use 5 different applications to track like financial stuff. Mint. I have every single thing connected to that. But I feel like, I don't know if it's just our collective age. I know we're kind of in a little bit of a range there, but I feel like I just have some level of inherent trust of bigger systems, like bigger digital systems, that like stuff's not going to go wrong that often, hopefully.
As little as possible.
I mean, I think that's like a human nature, human instinct thing. Like, this is big, it's publicly traded, people know about it, it must be good.
Right.
And this, I think this is probably beyond the scope of this particular podcast, but like that exact idea is like too big to fail, like Lehman Brothers.
Right.
Like that's not a technology example, but because they're so big, they need to be built out, because otherwise the whole bottom falls out for everything, because we need to think that some stuff is just inevitable.
Sure.
Right.
Like
Target, their cash registers went out for a few hours.
That's a much better example for this.
Like, what was what was it? The whole internet went out like a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, the Cloudflare. Yeah.
Cloudflare went down, which like half of the websites that anyone goes to like utilize that technology.
Sure.
And we couldn't go on any websites.
Oh yeah, Twitter was down.
Yeah.
For like a few hours.
Yeah.
Which I have enough friends that are like social media managers that were just like, I remember was it a few weeks ago or a few months ago, like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter were all down.
How many
for like
friends do you have that are social media managers?
Actually, quite a bit. I have like
How many?
5 to 10 friends
Name them
that
all.
do that. I'm not doing that.
Name them all
Joe
and where they
Smith,
work.
John Johnson,
Joe Smith Jr.
Dale Johnson Smith.
All my friends, social media managers.
But you think about that kind of field, like when those kind of things go down, like, you know, I don't know how much of it we dealt with here when those kind of services go down, but you're reliant on that for, you know, part of your...
probably world's strongest internet signal here in the Mr. Smith office. So never goes down.
Never goes down.
Well, I guess if it was me and I was ex-client, I guess I would take some comfort in knowing that a lot of other businesses are down too.
Right.
It's not just you. Not your business is down. But I mean, it's still shitty regardless.
When it comes back up, there's a million memes about Twitter being down for a few hours and everyone losing their minds. I mean, so like people capitalize.
I mean,
on
even
it.
us in our office, when Slack goes down, you know, we're always like, Slack, oh my God, like even though we're like 10 feet away from one another, it's like Slack's down. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, the true, like, scary thing from that is, like, what if it's down? Mm-hmm. What if the grid is destroyed? What if, like...
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, we still have lights, we still have power, we still have energy, but, like, the communications grid of the internet goes down. Like,
Right.
it would devolve into chaos, like, almost immediately, even though by, like, standards all the way up to, like, 1995, we'd be just fine. But like that's
sure.
It's 2019 now, so that's different.
Oh,
Like,
I would be useless. I'd just go walk in the woods.
Are you
and
you're that reliant, you think, on technology?
I definitely am. I'm sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you. Yeah.
I think
What technology do you use the most that you're so reliant on?
I don't know, like
Howtokiss.com.
Yeah, howtokiss.com, howtohug.com.
Because I see it in like
Hug.com,
I see it like technology is like you have your social media technology, like you know, you have technology to get you more engaged and to stay engaged.
Howtohug.com is really fun.
But you also have technology that's doing great things out in the world. Like there's so much more technology around, like let's say like from the past 50 years on like heart transplant and like stents and that whole technology.
Medical technology.
Yeah, medical technology has come a long way where like I don't see really any downside in that. You know, like being able to, I'm not talking about cloning, but like, you know, heart and diabetes and like 3D modeling, that stuff for like medical reasons are, you know, has done great things around the world.
It taxes the resource pool for the world. People live longer. There are a few. I'm not. This is like I don't really believe what I'm saying here, but it is like somebody that was more equipped to make that argument than me could make that argument.
Oh, true. I mean, people live longer. Yeah, they use more resources. That for sure. But I'm just saying that
that's a negative.
Yeah.
Air quotes radio podcast here. But,
Camera's right there.
yeah.
No, but I feel like, you know, when we talk about technology, we have to I feel like you have to separate what the technology and what industry it's going to be for. You know, like, do I want the greatest advancements and weaponry in the world? You know, like, probably not. Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't want to make that call, but like, do you ever think about who's making decisions and like how far technology can go? I mean, like, who's playing God, I guess, and like this whole thing. It's like, you know, who's sanctioning people to get like robotic chips in their head to kind of control X, Y, and Z? Is like, I don't know. Is there someone out there or organization out there that, you know, watches that or limits that? I don't know.
Right.
There's arguably no more human pursuit of knowledge, I guess, or of humanization than something like ethics. And all of this technology has ethics implications like that. Like,
yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, is at what point are we redefining what it means to be human?
Right.
And then so once we redefine that, then I think that opens up a whole can of worms of like what the ethics that are in play. Like,
yeah, and I think like technology advances exponentially. So laws that were put in place in like 1995 for like
they're obsolete.
Technology like ethics are just, they don't make sense anymore.
Right.
what's the? It's like Moore's law. Like computing power doubles every 2 years or something.
Yeah,
like that's not exactly right, but I'll look it up.
I thought it was an exponential thing.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
Yeah. But either way, and that's actually been proven to be false, or it's starting to be false, that we can't, because I'm an IT nerd, that like they can't make transistors small enough to actually fulfill that in being true forever. It was true for a very long time, but at some point you can't make something smaller, at least.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Devin, I feel like you and I we talk about, I mean, I guess everyone here, we talk about Elon Musk a decent amount. We talk about Skynet a lot. Huge Terminator fans.
Well, that's my whole point. And it's like, it's corny and it's very like, sci-fi-ish, but like technology can go to its furthermost point, and there's always going to be some resistance to kind of bring it back to where it was or how it used to be. Like, no matter how great video games will be, there's always going to be that group of people who only want to play Nintendo, Super Nintendo. No matter how great Tesla is going to be, people still want to drive a 1970s muscle car. You know what I mean? So it's like,
sure.
Like with cars, I think it's like driving a car is super different than listening to music, because that's interpersonal legislation at scale.
Yeah.
So if 90% of the cars are self-driving and you and your 1970 muscle car are driving, where does liability come if an accident happens?
That's
stuff
true.
like that,
right? To my point, who's going to make that call? But I feel like to your point, it's like, there's always going to that is different. Just like no matter how great my Tidal Premium sounds, is it still going to give me the same feeling as when I listen to an old school vinyl? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're always going to have like the two sides of the coin there. But like, who makes the call? What you have to follow this, or you have to have this? Like Singapore, like you can't have a car, like I forget, you can't have a car that's more than 10 years old. Like,
but cars are different.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. So like, they made that call. That's law that you have. Like, you can't drive a car that's been on a road for longer than 10 years. And so like, who's making that? Like,
is that like a safety or environmental? Both.
Yeah,
I'm sure multiple
safety
factors,
and
emissions.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense with Singapore.
Yeah, just overall like at scale effect on things. Like me wanting to listen to a record doesn't do anything, but like me taking my own brain versus the brain of the hyper intelligent AI on the road is just a definitionally different thing.
That's true.
So like airplanes, probably like all that stuff. Like, I guess like right now this doesn't exist at all, but if they developed a knife that like couldn't cut you, like at what point would that be mandated? Right? If like enough, like how many people a year are getting knife incidents that it's a tax on the healthcare system, and at some point it's like, well, man, we need to mandate that you use this knife because you can't get hurt with this. So
right.
And like that's kind of like a over the top example, but that's sort of where this lies in my mind. Yeah.
But you have, I mean, to kind of play a different side of this too. I mean, I'm a huge believer in self-driving cars. I cannot wait until self-driving cars are here.
I trust robots way more than I trust myself.
Same. Yeah. But the first thing that they're going to be used for is things like semi-truck, like professional drivers on the road. That's the first. I mean, it already is being used. There is the Tesla semi that's already used in whatever ways so far, but it follows that kind of concept. But then you start into an idea of, well, how many? My dad was a professional driver. My dad had a commercial driver's license and drove trucks or whatever. And that's how he supported my brother and I, and whatever. And so, like,
not your mom, though. Screw her. Well, she worked. I'm sorry.
No, but like, thanks, God. But you start to talk about those kind of things. How many jobs do you remove with the advancements of technology?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As AI becomes more of a prolific thing. I mean, we even kind of can see it, not directly in our industry, but you take things like a Squarespace and things along those lines, and it takes what Devin and I do and tries to turn it into this AI-driven automatic thing of like, well, you're this kind of company? Well, we've made, based off of what you've told us, here's your perfect website for what you should do, and things along those lines. And so as technology grows and you can see the positives of it, you start to see those kind of societal negatives too, I think.
Luckily, though, I think that AI, although it can like learn the entirety of like existence in 2 weeks or something crazy like that, it'll never be as strong at doing like our jobs as it's always strongest when it's paired with a human. So like, if for example, if you were using AI to do code, and like you said, oh, I need like a slider here, and it goes through every slider that's ever existed and says, here's like the best way to do it, and like you have to like vet it and like put your own touch on it, but it still is searching through this huge database of like everything that's ever existed. So like and me as a designer, it'll say like, we think that these are the best things, but I think you always need to have some input, and then that will be the strongest. It can always learn faster than us, but we have like the emotion that it will never have, and that empathetic look at things.
I think that's a super optimistic viewpoint, and why would I doubt computing power to develop sentience in that way? Like, it's super.
True. I think they're gonna have to be careful to where it doesn't, so that we don't become irrelevant and
right. I mean, that's like the question, man. We are. I mean, every moment in human history, you're getting closer to that. But really, right now, we are on the cusp of some insane. You talk about. I read an article earlier today about like Jeff Bezos wanting to make like human colonies that float in the sky because he thinks that the Earth is going to be a wasteland, and so like humans have to figure out how to a way to live in space. All these crazy things, but they're like, but it's not just like a crazy idea. Like, you're talking about a guy who has more money than anyone else on the planet, who's putting billions of dollars into that idea, and space travel, and all these things are becoming and will in our collective lifetimes become a reality.
I'll go to space.
Yeah.
The only things like, and this,
how fast would my package come if I'm in space?
Ooh, good question. It's on the back of a jet.
Sorry, Colin.
Yeah. No.
that was definitely worth cutting Colin off.
I think you could easily envision a scenario, like a future wherein some of the ways that like in our entire lifetimes have been some of the hardest ways to like make money. So like it's notorious that like restaurants fail, right? And like that there could be, and like if this information like AI continues to expand, and I'm no expert in any of this obviously, but like at some point the only thing that like can't be replicated is like soul, like nutrition and soul. So like anything that's going to feed you or give you water or make you drunk or like be art that touches your soul. And even that, I wouldn't bet against technology figuring out a way to do all of it. But I feel I'm sad.
That goes back to the point. It's like, does everyone here want a self-driving car?
Oh, for sure.
I would.
Absolutely.
What would you do in the car if you weren't driving it?
Do we have like a beep machine on this podcast or no?
No.
What were you gonna say?
I was going to swear very enthusiastically about how good of a time I would have. That's all.
What would you do? But what would you do?
You can swear. I don't care.
What would you do in the car if you had to be in the passenger in the driver's seat and you weren't driving?
Sleep.
Sleep. Like catch up on like stuff that I don't want to do when I get to work, like go through emails, and so when I get to work, I can.
So I get motion sick, so it's like not as big of a benefit.
Yeah,
for me,
that's.
Like,
I'm trying to think of that too, because I can't read for too long of a time. I don't get like horribly motion sick, but my stomach starts to feel like garbage if I read while I'm like driving in the car.
Sure. I would watch TV. I'd be like hanging out on my couch in the car.
You know, right. But you can like I don't know. Like I feel like. For me, like I was thinking about that when I saw the lady reading a book the other night. It's like, what would I be doing in the driver's seat if I didn't have to drive? And it's like sleep, but like I can sleep in my bed at home. I don't want to sleep in my car. Like when I read, but like when I read like in a more comfortable spot, like when I'm be able to read and where I'm not looking at headlights or like would it make any experiences more enjoyable if I could do it in that 15 minutes of commuting or doing something else?
But that's found time though, because like all of a sudden, because you have that 15 minutes in the car to sit on the couch and watch TV or read a book, then maybe I start fucking doing pottery at home. Because it's like, well, I'm going to have my TV time on my commute into work, so like I've got this found time.
That's
but if you wanted to do pottery that much and you enjoy doing pottery, you would find time to do that.
But this is literally found time that does not exist in society.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking.
I have an hour commute every day. That's 1 hour every day I would get back that I could use however I want. Like.
Yeah, I mean, you think of like the evolution of that over time. Like if you take it back, I don't know, like a couple hundred years ago, where you'd have to I don't know, all the myriad of things that have now been replaced by, incredible leaps and bounds in technology that don't take us the time to make your own butter or, like crazy, whatever, stuff like that. Farming that's now done by, several people. What was that?
It's done by Land O'Lakes.
Yeah.
Butter. I'm sorry.
But I'm picking like ridiculous examples, and I haven't thought this through. But things like they're always adding more time into your day for you allowed to, like, over time we've been adding that. I think, watch TV, eat a breakfast.
The more
sandwich.
things get automated, though, the more time we have to do what? Like what are you doing at that point? If you're not driving, you're not cooking your own meals, you're not doing X because someone else is doing it, then what the hell are you doing? What are you doing at that point?
True.
You're literally you're not living. And that's what the most scary part is. Like, you're freeing up all this time to do what? Like,
but yeah. I think though, like that's there's also beauty in that because it is truly possibility. So like there's this like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And like right now that's largely tied to like economic bases, wherein like you've got certain like base living needs, eat, sleep, shelter, that you need to fulfill, right. And then you move up this thing, and they're more they're more for your soul, I guess, as you move up. And so like even maybe there are machines that automate cooking, but there are also machines that automate cleaning and gardening or whatever else. So I can still say I love cooking. I'll still cook.
Yeah.
And I'll use all my robot time to do all this other stuff, and like I'll still cook.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. I mean, to go back to something you had mentioned, Jared, like, the guy who loves driving. I have friends who love going on road trips and love driving. I hate driving. I detest driving. I do like cooking. I do actually like cleaning, to be honest. Yeah. And like, there's things that I, even given the opportunity to be replaced by that kind of stuff, if we're given the opportunity, some of those things I'd still want to do. But driving, if they passed the legislation tomorrow in New York State that like, all right, I'd go out and like immediately. It's a thing that I don't like. It's a thing that I don't like, the idea that people as not perfect creatures are in charge of these giant things made of metal that can and have killed so many people and caused horrible things, especially here in Buffalo when it's winter and yada, yada, yada. That I would love to eliminate that risk or thought of that in any possible way.
Yeah, I would use it like specifically too. Like, I also enjoy cooking, but specific example, all my friends get together on Sundays and just hang out all day at the pool and stuff. And that's the day where I like make meals for the week and I go shopping. Yeah. So I never can do it. So like if I had the choice on that day to do it, that would be perfect. But the rest of the week I would find a balance. Yeah. And I might, if I were to use it during the week, like maybe I would have another day to go like practice drums or like get good at something that I just haven't had the time to. So I think a lot of people would just do and probably I would fall into this too, do the opposite where it's like, oh, I have all this time, I'm just going to sit around and be lazy. Yeah. But you could also use it in a positive way to
There are a lot of different types of episodes of Law & Order out there that all need watching. Yeah.
Seriously. 90 Day Fiancé, I'll watch that.
Oh, okay.
God.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot of ground in this.
For sure.
I'm trying to...
I'll end with this.
Okay.
If you could make one process better through technology in the next 30 days, what would it be?
Ooh.
I would like to eliminate having to brush my teeth.
Ooh, I like that one.
I'd like to just like walk through like a chamber on my way into the bedroom and like have it just like sterilize my teeth and like never have to worry about that ever again.
Very fair. Honestly, like cleaning for me.
In general?
Yeah, like just around, like if I didn't have to do anything around the house somehow, do that and the dishes, please.
Do you have a dishwasher?
Yeah, still too much.
Fair. I wasn't like, oh, you got nothing to do.
You gotta empty it.
For sure. Yeah, it's gotta rinse it beforehand and all that. I get it.
Yeah, I don't have a dishwasher either, so I'd probably be in that. I like cleaning. Like I actually like tidying up my apartment and stuff like that. I hate doing dishes with yeah, I hate doing dishes a lot. So I'd probably be in that camp. But there's already a thing that does that, as we just kind of said. The dishwasher
could do it better.
Pretty much does. That's true. Could find something to do it better. I'm trying to think if there's...
Yeah, there's a thing that does it better. My wife. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can...
Just kidding. I do the dishes. Internet.
Internet.
Jared,
Jared, do you have one?
I actually like doing cooking and like the dishes because I usually like I clean the kitchen before I cook, and I clean it again. So
Yeah.
put on music, have some wine, whatever. I think the one thing that
wind down.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing that I would want mandated, if you have a service-based business, it should be required that you have a website that I can book an appointment on. Like, I hate the fact that like for my doctor or dentist, I have to call and make an appointment. If I could just do it right online,
yes,
like I would go way more often.
Super true.
But like I missed my last dentist appointment and I didn't call and like cancel. Now I feel super awkward to call and make an appointment because why didn't you come to the last appointment? And it's like I really don't have an excuse. I just didn't want to go.
Sure.
So now like I haven't made an appointment because. You
you just chose not to go to an appointment?
I don't know. I was probably running late for something, and it's all out in Williamsville.
Colin is so offended by this
that's
mere
awful.
Concept.
It's not awful.
And I would say if you're a business out there that is service-based and you don't have a website that can do that,
we can do it for you.
We can do that. I would love to do that.
We integrate with all
for literally like every service that I use that none of them have websites where I can book any of these things. That would be great.
And we will also automate your cooking.
We'll send Colin over to do your dishes too.
And we can do all of this for a price range of from free to $100 million.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening to the episode. We really hope you enjoy it, and stick around and come back for the next one.
Yeah, really, really appreciate everyone kind of giving us their time on this platform. Please stay up to date with us. Follow us on Instagram at Mr. Smith Agency. Check out all of our work there. Also, visit our website, mrsmith.agency.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.